So for the longest time, it's been my mom's dream to hike the trail to Machu Picchu. My sister and I agreed to come and make a trip out of it, so this is that trip. But let's start at the beginning. So on the way down, we had a stop in Atlanta. We had about an 8-hour layover down there, and I'd never been to Atlanta before, and while it was just a layover, the city is beautiful. It's so green. The only knowledge I have really had of Atlanta is what I've heard in different hip-hop songs and also Donald Glover's show, Atlanta. But yeah, it seems like a really nice place. I would love to visit again. With that much time to kill, we decided to check out the High Museum of Art. They had a really cool collection of Dutch artists, paintings, more historical stuff. As well as some contemporary art.
No way.
I was delighted and surprised to run into a piece by Keita Morimoto Studio on Instagram. He is one of my favorite artists. I've probably used his paintings as just inspiration reference on multiple of my illustrations. It was really kind of surreal to see one in person after looking at so many online. But yeah, that place was filled with so many really cool, interesting contemporary pieces. I highly recommend checking it out if you ever find yourself in Atlanta. And then the journey continued to Peru. We had a quick stopover in Lima for the night. Our final destination was Cusco, but yeah, we were all just completely drained from all of the travel. I did do a bit of sketchbooking. There is some sketchbook spreads in this video. Not much, but yeah, here's one that I did on the flight down. Here. Perfect. We're in Peru! Yeah. We landed in Cusco the next morning and immediately felt the effects of the elevation. Cusco is at an elevation of about 3,400 meters, which isn't terrible coming from Calgary, which is at about 1,000 meters. It's better than coming from sea level. But regardless, we came to Cusco a couple days before our trek to get acclimated. And so we had a bunch of time to just explore and experience how beautiful that city was. Our first few hours in Cusco were spent traversing the mazes that were their city streets. There were so many dogs, both it seemed like owned by people and a ton of strays. It did seem like all of the strays were well taken care of. None of them seemed particularly skinny, and they all were really chill, so that was nice. The streets were so dense with so much charm and history. It was really a dream to be there and shoot photos. We ran into this really cool old aqueduct/canal thing called the Huaca Sapantiana. Yeah, it was really cool just walking a block and seeing something so old and kind of mystical looking, if that makes sense. But yeah, like I alluded to a little earlier, I found time for a bit of sketchbooking, not nearly as much as I would have liked. I think typically when I go on trips with groups of people, especially to like a new country like Peru, where we're trying to do all of the touristy things and see everything, there's not much time or not very many moments of solitude that I find to pull up my sketchbook and do some sketching. So the few spreads that I did do, I'll show you. This is one that I just did drawing when we were chilling at the hostel. The next day was just another chill day, checking out different things in the city. We visited the Coricancha, which is a old Inca temple. Cori in Quechua, which is the indigenous language and the name of the indigenous people from the South American Andes, means gold. And so this temple was like a really important building that, when the Spanish colonized Peru, was completely adorned in gold and silver. Today there's obviously none of that gold and silver left, as it was all looted, but yeah, the building that still stands is obviously completely beautiful. So later that day, we visited the Museum of Pre-Columbian Art in Cusco. This was basically a collection of artifacts from pre-Columbian Peru and kind of the surrounding regions. This was things like Incan artifacts and all of the empires and cultures that kind of existed before the Incan Empire. It was really interesting and cool to see such old pieces, and I guess especially like within the context of seeing other artifacts from around the world. It was interesting how universal ornamentation and design and art kind of existed in every era of humanity, regardless of, you know, whether or not groups had been talking to each other. The next day, bright and early, around 4:30 a.m., we were picked up by our tour group, and it was time to start this dang trek. We were trekking with Alpaca Expeditions, can't recommend them enough. Our tour group was a group of 11 plus our 2 guides.
Please, can I be part of your photo? Too late. Everybody, please come here.
Oh, are we doing a selfie?
Please.
I don't know if we're all in frame though.
Your hat is too big, Lisha.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So the entire trek was a total of 45 kilometers, split up into 4 days and 3 nights. If you guys have been watching any of my recent vlogs, you'll know that I've been doing my fair share of hiking recently in preparation for this, but yeah, it was definitely not easy. But yeah, despite the challenge, the good people and the views around us as we hiked were honestly what kept us going, so I was sure to take lots of photos. Each night stopping at camp, I wish I had more energy to like sketch or do anything, but with how early the sun set and how exhausted we all were, it was basically get to campsite, have some food, get ready for bed, and try and get a good night's sleep before we did it all the next day again. This is crazy. The second day especially was the biggest challenge by far of all the days, with a total of 16 kilometers and about 10 hours hiking total that day. Our legs were definitely feeling it after that, but goddamn, when we got to that first summit, it was just something else. Yeah, I'm hugely grateful to have, been able to experience this like bucket list item, this like once in a lifetime experience of doing this trek. I'm so grateful to Alpaca Expeditions, and I'm so grateful to have had the trekking group that we did and the tour guides that we did. I was so happy to learn all about the context and the history of all of the places that we stopped along the way, especially from our tour guides who are themselves Quechua and direct descendants of people that still live in these areas to this day. It was really kind of beautiful seeing how our tour guides kind of advocated for the Quechua and the indigenous in the region and gave us context about how things are in modern Peru, and yeah, just everything was amazing. Huge shout out to the porters that were on our group and all of the porters that work this trekking tourism industry. They are literally like the hardest working people I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, our trek would not have been what it was without them. I don't really have much else to say in terms of, how the trek went. It was beautiful and wonderful, and yeah, you can see for yourself, obviously. So please enjoy the rest of the vibes and the photos that I took. Walking up to Machu Picchu at the end of the trek was so sudden, we all kind of didn't even realize that we had finished. My mom later recounted this moment as her favorite because we had all been trekking so hard, we were all exhausted out of our minds, and suddenly looking up and seeing this crazy, surreal, massive monument of Inca history was just indescribable. It was a sleepy train ride back to the city, as you would imagine, but I did do a bit of sketchbooking. First, here's a spread that I did while we were trekking, just a couple drawings that I managed to fit in while we were at campsites. And then this is a spread that I did at Machu Picchu and afterwards a little bit. The rest of the trip was pretty chill. We had a couple more days in Cusco to wander and explore. The last couple days of our trip we spent in Lima. mostly just wandering around, checking out the little shops everywhere, and eating ceviche. And yeah, that was the trip. I'm very grateful to have gotten to experience all of this firsthand. Peru is a gorgeous place with beautiful, friendly, welcoming, amazing people. I highly recommend making a trip out to Peru, and especially doing the trek that we did. Like I said, we were with Alpaca Expeditions, and it was just like everything was incredible. And yeah, beautiful memories. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in a bit.